What's up, guys? I am James Hake. It's Thursday, March 3rd, 2022, Anno Domini. I guess that's how it's pronounced. I've been pronouncing it Anno Domini. I think my dad told me that it was pronounced that way when I was homeschooled in 3rd grade. Nice. But it's 9:01 a.m. U.S. Pacific Standard Time here in Los Angeles. Last couple of weeks of Standard Time. We're going to be switching to Daylight Savings Time soon. I want to talk about the Ukraine hype. I have more ignorance to share with you, and perhaps some good information. A couple of clips to play, some more entertaining than others. The mask mess, the China virus hype. I heard that Australia is opening up again a little bit. What a terrible mess of a country. And it's a shame. And it's happening all over the world, right? And some evil people pushing the transgender agenda on kids. There was a guy who spoke at the Bond Men's Conference, different from the Men's Forum, which is happening tonight. But the Bond Annual Men's Conference in Orlando, Florida, just this past year, Jeffrey Younger spoke. I think his name is Jeffrey Younger. His son, James, who's like 7, 8, 9 now, maybe 9. His mother, who I don't even think is his biological mother, is turning him, quote unquote, transgender. And he spoke at a college over in University of North Texas. And the Antifa people, let's call them what they are, Antifa, evil enemies of America, pro-transgenders, went crazy. And so I have some footage of that, courtesy of Andy No and Alex Stein and others. What a mess. And the climate change hype, making kids and Gen Z anxious, very anxious. They have eco-anxiety. So dumb. But anyway, guys, let's get right on with the show!
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
Hey, guys!
Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
So, how you guys doing? I am fine. I will be getting to your calls. You can call in 888-775-3773. That is 888-775-3773. Straightest intro on YouTube. What? Well, I said straightest because he said the opposite. It's opposite day. It's Thursday. I will be getting to your calls as well as your super chats. It's Thursday, Men's Forum tonight, first Thursday of the month, 7 p.m. at Bond in Los Angeles. I hype it because it is a highlight of the month. How you guys doing? What's up to the Facebook crew and to the Twitch crew? I see you, of course, on YouTube and D Live as well. And let us not forget Odyssey, ODYSEE.com/@ The Hake Report. Guys, I was taking a peek at a video that was linked in one of the YouTube comments, I think it was, that was showing America, how far America has fallen since the 1940s. Los Angeles in the 1940s. I may show footage of it because it was quite interesting later, maybe a different day, perhaps tomorrow, Friday. But it was a clip on YouTube. It was entitled Los Angeles 1940s residential area in color, 60 frames per second, remastered with added sound. And it reminded me of my grandparents' houses. My grandma and grandpa on my dad's side, and my grandma and grandpa on my mother's side. They both lived in Los Angeles County. Here in Los Angeles County when I was just a child and through adulthood. through much of my adulthood. I'm laughing at the chat. And wow, it was, I mean, they had these, I guess you would call it tract homes. Like it was home after home after home, but a decent yard, decent space between the homes. Not two-story houses generally. They, you could see the mountains above the, the hills, the San Gabriel Mountains. Well, for where I was, San Gabriel Mountains. We're in the San Gabriel Valley. San Gabriel. Or San Jabril, if the Muslims take over. But, and it was beautiful. And I remember hearing my dad talk about, like, kind of lamenting the transformation of that area, Arcadia and all that, with the McMansions built by the Asians mostly. The Asians came in invading, thanks to the 1965 Immigration Act, which I didn't learn about that from my dad, but I learned about from other people on this show, on the Hake Report and elsewhere. That the Asians came in and all these other people, outsiders, invading, in my opinion, invading, taking over, and just building these garish homes that don't fit with the neighborhood, don't fit with the landscape. You can't even see the mountains anymore, the hills. What a mess. How's the beta back doing? Doing okay. Thank you, Mr. Popo. And so, and the view of this Los Angeles neighborhood from the 40s totally reminds me of that. Totally could be my like grandma's house or grandma and grandpa's house. I may show that to you later. Anyway, I will get to your calls, guys. Let me show you some of this Ukraine hype. I have a quote for you shared by Commie Nonsense Network CNN. My soul belongs to the Lord, and my body and my honor belong to my country and to my family. That's a quote from Ukrainian boxing champion Oleksandr Usyk. And I don't know anything about this guy, but that's his quote on his decision to return home and join the Ukrainian Territorial Defense Battalion, purportedly. I don't know if any of this is true. I said to fight for non-Christian President Volodymyr Zelensky against the Russian Christian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin. I'm half kidding. I respect it, I guess, if it's true. I'm sure there are very fine people on both sides, right? And there is certainly violence on many sides, And I'm quoting Trump, who was referencing a different situation, the Charlottesville situation. Charlottesville, Virginia, in which the whites protested against the tearing down of the beautiful Confederate monuments, the Confederate Americans tearing down of the monuments, such as the great Confederate general and American hero who loved all people, black and white. I assume he was a Christian. I think Robert E. Lee was a Christian, right? Honorable man, a great man, better than any of his detractors who live today. I say, and I'm pretty sure I'm right. And the whites went over there to protest, and perhaps some others. Some of them were nationalists, some were just what they call civic nationalists, some were ethno-nationalists, and they didn't like it. I might have thought to go, had I lived in that area. Honorable people. But Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and the establishment went after them and blamed them for the chaos that ensued, when in reality it was primarily the left. And Trump said it right. There was violence on many sides and very fine people on both sides of the argument. But same applies with many other things, including this Ukraine-Russia mess, right? Pretty sure I'm right. So I grabbed this clip from February 27th. That's just a few days ago. That's just on Sunday. From this man who was referenced by one of my callers. Asmodor called in yesterday. Retired Colonel Doug MacGregor said Sunday on Fox News about the Ukraine-Russia war to Trey Gowdy, And this is clip 13. MacGregor says U.S. should stop shipping weapons and stop encouraging Ukrainians to die in a hopeless endeavor. And I got this from Real Clear Politics, but it's a Fox News clip. It's 2 or 3 minutes long, but listen closely, and it's kind of affirms what my caller yesterday mentioned. Enjoy retired Colonel Doug MacGregor, MacGregor, and what he says sounds kind of right. Certainly sounds better than the phony kissing up to the Ukraine mess that we saw at the State of the Union and in the mainstream media and in the commie capitalist phony corporate world that propped up Black Lives Matter and Me Too. Give me a break. All that hype went from China virus hype to war hype. Pfft. Listen to Doug MacGregor. Here he is.
Advisor to the Secretary of Defense. Thank you for joining us. Why do you think Putin is doing this? What is his end game?
Well, Vladimir Putin is carrying through on something that he's been warning us about, at least for the last 15 years, which is that he will not tolerate U.S. forces or their missiles on his borders, much as we would not tolerate Russian troops and missiles in Cuba. And we ignored him, and he finally acted. He was not going to allow Ukraine under any circumstances to join NATO. And what's happened now is that the battle in eastern Ukraine is really almost over. All the Ukrainian troops there have been largely surrounded and cut off. You have a concentration down in the southeast of 30 to 40,000 of them. And if they don't surrender within the next 24 hours, I suspect that the Russians will ultimately annihilate them. That's why Zelensky is meeting with Putin's representatives right now. The game is over. And he's going to have to negotiate the best deal he can get. And we've already told him, the President of the United States has, that if he opts for neutrality for Ukraine, we'll back him. And I think that Vladimir Putin will do that for Western Ukraine. That is the Ukraine beyond the Dnieper River. But behind it in the east, where he is now, I'm not sure what he has planned there, whether he forms another republic, annexes it into Russia, because historically it has been Russian. But the territory west of Ukraine is not. He knows that, and he's happy to live with that as a neutral state.
I am not a military expert. I'm not even an expert on geography. But if he takes Ukraine and Ukraine abuts Poland, then he's going to have a NATO country abutting him. So if that's what he doesn't want, then isn't he going to just have to keep going until he runs out of NATO countries?
Sigh.
I guess I should say it again. He has no interest in crossing the Dnieper and heading west to the Polish border. I think you're going to find from these negotiations he's quite willing to neutralize that territory on the Austrian or the Finnish model. Right now, Russia already touches Estonia and part of Latvia. White Russia, of course, touches Lithuania. He's not interested in going to war with us, and he has an army that's too small for that purpose. And he knows it. His economy is smaller than that of South Korea's. So this is not something that he's looking for. We are imputing to him things that he does not want to do in our usual effort to demonize him and his country. We need to remember that Ukraine is fourth from the bottom of 158 countries in the world as corrupt. Russia is perhaps 3 or 4 places above them. This is not the liberal democracy, the shining example that everyone says it is. Far from it. Mr. Zelensky has jailed journalists and his political opposition.
Whoa.
I think we need to stay out of it. The American people think we should stay out of it. The Europeans think we should stay out of it. And we should stop shipping weapons and encouraging Ukrainians to die in what is a hopeless endeavor.
So when you say stay out of it, you mean no sanctions, no military aid, just let Russia take the portion of Ukraine they want to take?
Yes, absolutely. I see no reason why we should fight with the Russians over something that they have been talking about for years. We simply chose to ignore it. And more important, the population there is indistinguishable from their own. You know, the thing that's so disturbing is that on the one hand, we will not send our forces to fight, but we are urging Ukrainians to die pointlessly in a fight they can't win. We're going to create a far worse humanitarian disaster than anything you've seen thus far if it doesn't stop.
Crazy, huh? That's wild. Uriel Giovanni says, guy on the left is every Catholic youth pastor. That's referring to Trey Gowdy, if you're not already familiar. Did my volume go up? Trey Gowdy, if you're not already familiar, is a former rhino, in my opinion. He talked big. We were like, oh, yeah, go get him. But he performed well in front of the cameras, and I guess that's why he was hired by Fox News, because he's a talker. All talk, no action, as Trump might say. Harold Watson Trey Gowdy III. He's a host there on Fox News now, in case you did not know. But he was out of, wasn't he from like a southern state? Greenville, South Carolina was where he was born. Man, the South. We got to start pumping out solid people in the South again, which we're more likely to have solid people come from there than elsewhere, I think. But, yeah, upstate region of South Carolina, Greenville, Spartanburg. Now he's a news personality, or a television personality. Former federal prosecutor, by the way. Ineffective, in my opinion. White Russia, I guess he mentioned White Russia, is a historical reference for a territory in the eastern part of, present-day Belarus? I don't know. He mentioned White Russia. Don't know much about it. Somebody else said something interesting. We should stay out of this Obama-Biden proxy war, says Time for Truth over there on Odyssey. Sure looks like he had more nose jobs than Michael Jackson. Good grief. What's up, Tyler? Shout out to the Facebook crew. The faithful few. Yeah. Anyway, let me get to a call or two before I present to you perhaps a better explanation, a simpler explanation of what's going on, and a specious moral argument too. First, let me get to Keith in Illinois. Keith, how are you doing?
All right. How are you, Hake? How was the crew? How's everybody doing?
We're doing fine. All is well. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, good. I just wanted to make a statement. You look at this, I call it the American government, because it's not the Americans.
Right.
This
I know.
government has went to Syria. They have went to Iraq. They have went to Afghanistan, Vietnam, North Korea, South Korea. They went all over the world and tried to set up their own government, just like Putin is doing, and kill people and trying to make people, oppress people into their ideology, just like Obama when he got sanctions against Africa when they didn't want to have a gay marriage. So this American government is so corrupt and evil and wicked, and they are such hypocrites. They what Putin's doing, they've been doing all over the world for decades now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. Obama, the anti-war people thought that Obama would be a good choice. I think some of the anti-war people, because they were mad at George W. Bush for waging war constantly. Yeah. But Obama did the same thing. He expanded war, according to what I heard, in Libya, and he got some of our Americans killed, and Americans killed on U.S. soil by being so lax with the immigration situation and pushing gun running to Mexico and all that mess. Right. I think that might have been him.
How dare them get on TV? They got the liberal media, and how people forget how they have done this for decades all over the world. I mean, they just left Iraq, where they put their own government in and kill a lot of Iraqis, tens of thousands of Iraqis, to put their own government in, just to leave $80 billion worth of. Now, just remember, all this money they use is printed money and taxpayers' money to influence the world, to be homosexual, to kowtow, to give up your nuclear weapon like they did in Libya. They've been doing this all over the world. They're doing the same thing Putin's doing, and they're acting like he's a monster, but they're a monster too, and people should have sanctions against Americans that have businesses all over the world, these government people and all these Hollywood people. They should sanction them all over the world, take away their ability to live a lavish lifestyle. The same thing should be done to this American government too. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's so evil, and you bring up a great point that they're pushing this globo-homo stuff, globalist homogeneity, and they want to force their false religious beliefs of LGBTIQ rights. There's no such thing. There's and their fake version of human rights where you get to kill your babies in the womb and all that stuff.
Yes,
They're not for what's right. Give me a break.
That's
Yeah.
all I'm trying to say. These are the worst hypocrites. And I wouldn't say the American people, it's the American government. It's not the people, American people. Most of us don't want war. We don't believe in, forcing, people to do what we say do by making them poor. Look what they do to North Korea.
Yeah.
How many people got to eat rats over there? How many people got to eat mice?
Is that
how many
true?
people got to eat bugs? They're doing the same thing in North Korea. They are such hypocrites. They're doing the same thing. So all the people over there got to starve to death because of one dictator. Like we have a couple of dictators over there.
Yeah.
That's all it is in the Western. We just have the guy in Canada. We have a lot of dictators over here. They don't call themselves dictators. They call themselves government. They just dictators. They have the same thing as Kim Jong-un. They all the same, but yet still our media helps them point to other people why they do the same thing to all over the world, to all these innocent people that are dying. Just like I said in North Korea, I'm not for, Kim Jong-un, but all these people are dying and suffering and in such poverty just because he won't get rid of his nuclear weapons. And you see what happened to Gaddafi when he got rid of his nuclear weapons. They went in there and made sure he died.
Yeah, Gaddafi. Was that what Obama doing?
Yes, that was Obama and Clinton. That's what it was. Hillary Clinton went in there and made sure that they put up this propaganda against him, and his own people killed him because once he got rid of his nuclear weapons, well, that's what they did to him. You think Kim Jong-un will get rid of his nuclear weapons? They gonna do the same thing to him. It's all a big old con, wicked, evil game that these so-called fake Christian, satanic people are playing all over the world, yet still so hypocritical and calling everybody else bad when they do the exact same thing times 10.
Yeah.
Because they have more of our money. They have more of our money to influence more countries. Now remember, it's our money. It's not their money. It's our money to influence their propaganda, their wicked propaganda all over the world. How dare they get on Putin when they are the same way, and all the rest of the world need to do them the same way. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Crazy. Well, I appreciate it, Keith. It's good to hear from you, man. Long time.
Always, man. Y'all take care. Yeah. Y'all take care of yourself. Thanks a lot, buddy.
All right. Thank you. Wow. Muammar Gaddafi. Was he that guy who looked kind of like a Jamaican, like a light-skinned Jamaican? Gaddafi? I want to say that he was. He was slimmer in his younger days, in 1970. I'm looking at Muammar Gaddafi. I thought it was spelled with a K. Libyan revolutionary. And yeah, back in 2011, what was it, NATO? He was killed anyway. And I remember that guy from Nation of Islam was kind of friends with him, I think. That Louis Farrakhan was sort of friends with Gaddafi. Was it Obama who killed Gaddafi? That's the Libya situation. And Libya became a mess. Is Libya where they started doing the slavery stuff? I don't know. But Libya is where they had the, what was that? 2012, 9/11, 2012, 11/12. Let's see. 9/11, what the heck? Benghazi. Remember that Benghazi attack on the American consulate? That's Libya. Thanks, Obama. Thanks, Hillary Clinton. She was Secretary of State at the time. And she's all, what difference at this point does it make? What happened? We just have to find out what happened. So lame. So fake. And then people were impressed with her, including phony Fauci. Anthony Fauci. He sent an email to her. It was leaked by WikiLeaks, I think. He sent an email to Hillary Clinton saying, oh, you did so wonderful that day. He congratulated her. Ridiculous. Cringy males, liberal males. Am I right? Yes. So before I get back to calls, Bobby in Texas, I'm coming to you next. He wants to talk about AFPAC. Very cool. I like that topic. I was there this year. So was JLP. We talked about it with Bobby a little bit yesterday. But first, let me talk a little bit more about, here's a better explanation of what's really going on. Don't listen to that retired colonel, Doug MacGregor. What does he know? Listen to this. This is from clip 12. This is the post-millennial on Twitter. They have the real story, courtesy of Cackling Kamala Harris. She breaks down what's really happening between Ukraine and Russia. Listen to this brilliant breakdown. It's even more brilliant than my breakdown of what's going on. Here is Kamala Harris on a black radio show, I presume. Enjoy this brilliance.
If you're watching any level of news, even social media, you're seeing everything that's going on right now in the Ukraine. Break it down in layman's terms for people who don't understand what's going on and how can this directly affect the people of the United States.
So Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
You tell us, Queen Cackling Kamala. I'm being a little sarcastic if you're not catching on. Kamala Harris says Ukraine is a smaller country in Europe. Russia's a bigger country, more powerful, and they're invading Ukraine. And basically, that's wrong. She's so stupid, says Man Godson over there in the live chat on YouTube. Yeah, I agree, but she's breaking it down for the blacks the way that she wants the blacks to understand it, presumably. And I liked the question, the conversation on the Jason Lee Peterson show on whose network I stream between him and Jason from Buffalo, I think it was, saying, why is it wrong to invade Ukraine? Well, if you listen to retired Colonel Doug MacGregor, he did it because he'd been warning for 15 years that he didn't want them having missiles and being part of NATO and the EU and all that stuff right on their border. And he admitted that, oh yeah, Estonia and Lithuania or whatever are also on the border and they're members of NATO, but for some reason, he's been saying it for 15 years, not without warning, according to that guy MacGregor, that colonel in the prior clip versus Trey, talking to Trey Gowdy, kind of versus Trey Gowdy on Fox News. I was kidding. I think Doug MacGregor is more a man of authority than Cackling Kamala Harris. The affirmative action, light-skinned, black, supposedly black female, part Indian, part Jamaican, supposedly American anchor baby, maybe. Kamala Harris. Born in, where? Maybe she was born up in Berkeley or something like that. Called Joe Biden a racist because she was that little girl who had to be bussed, and Biden was against the forced busing before he was for it. Selecting her as vice president was wrong. Yeah, I don't even think that she was a legitimate senator. Because of the status of her birth. Much less than that is the consideration of what type of person she is. She's a phony, evil person. Obama called her the most attractive attorney general. She was state attorney general of the state of California. Horrific. Evil person. Black, supposedly female. Supposedly black. I think she's female, yeah. She got married recently, no kids. She got married to a man who had adult children already. Recently, I mean within the past several years. But, speaking of this nonsense, let me jump into this before I get to Bobby in Texas, because this is in the same vein of twisted, messed up thinking. Can you pull up the Ukraine aspect of the Pocket Kids Gen Z Climate Ukraine screenshots? I pulled up these screenshots. I look at Pocket headlines. Pocket is pumped up by Firefox, which is a web browser. Pocket gathers a bunch of liberal media headlines. And one of these is this from Parents Magazine, parents.com. That's evil. It's not for the legitimate parents. Ukraine. How to talk to your children about Russia invading Ukraine. And it's written by this woman named Marissa Brown, who has a cute smile, but she's apparently evil and a sucker. You need You need to know true. Save Ukraine, stop war. Russia's military invaded Ukraine, causing civilians all over the country to leave their homes. This is Marissa Brown's editor writing, I think. And retreat to bomb shelters and subway stations. Here's how to help families in need. And one of them, number 6 on this, what parents should do for talking to their kids and helping out the situation, give to Outright International. This is number 6 on their list of things to do. Outright International is short for out of the closet, right? Out of the closet is a reference to being shamelessly into degeneracy, right? Meaning you're proud of being into the perversion that you've fallen into in your fallen state, and the world thinks that that's wonderful. They call evil good. They call wrong right and right wrong. Or they call stuff right that they have no idea. Support the LGBTIQ community in Ukraine. There's nothing that the gay agenda doesn't try to get their hands involved in. Outright International, working to make sure LGBTQ plus groups and organizations on the ground. What a cringy term. On the ground in Ukraine are protected in time of crisis. How about not pushing that as right? You can be like, oh yes, protect innocent people, I guess. But then you wouldn't support the global homo agenda, which causes more war. Weakness causes more war and genocide and attacks and terror attacks and anger and bitterness and the imaginary white supremacy boogeyman that they are bringing out of people. They're bringing it out of people by attacking them. Give to the International Red Cross is number 8. In Ukraine, the ICRC is helping people affected by the conflict. It will go towards helping repair homes and infrastructure, such as water pumping stations, and providing mental health and educational services. Do you trust the International Red Cross to provide valid so-called mental health and educational services? They're going to brainwash them with propaganda. Support journalism. Yeah, right. Global Citizen recommends donating to 2 organizations focused on independent journalism in Ukraine. The Kiev Independent, Ukraine World, and they spell Kiev the Ukrainian way, which is all of a sudden they switched it, I heard. It's supposed to be K-I-E-V, but they switched it to the Ukrainian spelling K-Y-I-V, I think. Created for journalists who were fired from the Kiev Post for defending editorial independence. And isn't that interesting? According to Doug MacGregor, the Ukrainian president, who's not a Christian, by the way, Volodymyr Zelensky, he's an actor and comedian and pretty vulgar, I think. Based on, like, I saw him dancing in, like, a girly outfit with a bunch of other girly guys. Disgusting. I don't know what year it was from, but Big Bump sent it to me. Made me want to spit. He's a warning, make you want to spit. Indeed. Stand up for peace at a protest is another thing that that this woman encourages parents to do, meaning mothers, sucker mothers who support transgender kids, and which is wrong. You know, if you and your kids want to make your voice heard on the crisis, you can meet up with demonstrators around the globe as they take to the streets. Find your nearest demonstration here. Yeah, like that'll do anything. Just mess. Anyway, let me get to, as promised, Bobby in Texas. Bobby, thank you for holding. How are you doing?
Doing well, James. How you doing, man?
Doing well as well. Thank you.
Awesome. I wanted to, real quick, just to clarify my thought process to the caller yesterday. Azzmador.
Azzmador. A-Z-Z-M-A-D-O-R.
No, something like that. Something.
I just told you what it was. Why did you have to throw in that word?
I said as something.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure what it was.
Yeah, I just told you what it was.
Yeah.
Azzmador.
I knew it was something like. I was just saying I knew it was something like that.
Okay, all right.
He said he asked my thought process on voting for West when I liked Huffins better.
So
wasn't that I
Alan
liked
West,
Huffins.
he's referencing for the people listening. Sorry, I have to interrupt you to explain to the people what's going on. Yesterday, we talked about the Texas primary, and I talked about how this Greg Abbott guy, who's, in my opinion, a rhino, is the current governor of Texas. Now he's the incumbent for the Republican Party because he faced a primary against a number of Republicans, including the great Alan West, whom I consider great, who moved from Florida to Texas to help keep Texas red, right? To keep Texas Republican. And against another conservative man whom I had learned about just recently, and Bobby learned about just recently, Don Huffines, who was a state senator in Texas and a family man and Christian, I do believe. Yeah. And those two got like 250,000 votes apiece. Greg Abbott got 1.2 million, supposedly, in this thing. And Bobby said that he voted for Alan West as he had intended to originally, but he did like Don Huffines. And so, go on.
Well, my thought process was, like, I really like West better. Like, it's not that I would vote for Huffins because I like him better. Like, when I check the financials for the two candidates, all that Alan West had left in his holdings was $64,000, and I believe Huffins had something like $480,000 left. So it was more likely that he would be able to mount a much better fight against Abbott. Like, I think West is a cooler guy. I think he's nicer, more I liked him. Meeting both of them, talked to both of them, like, I thought he was just the better candidate. But I felt like Huffins had a better chance to actually to win. And I didn't steal any votes away. Anything but Abbott was a good vote because you just had to keep Abbott below the 50.000001 mark.
Uh-huh.
As long as you do that, there'll be a runoff. But there was no chance. If everybody that didn't vote Abbott had voted for Huffins, there still wouldn't have been a runoff. Like,
all right,
he won by enough votes to keep him there no matter what.
Yeah.
But just to clear that up. But I was curious about, like, the AFPAC and the conversation we had yesterday. Could you give me some context on, like, how the Putin chant broke out? Like, maybe I don't know. I gave it some thought, and so I thought maybe I was just missing something in how it was used.
Yeah, at the beginning of the speeches, Nick Fuentes, who's the host of America First, it's a show that he's hosted since 2017. He's the one who founded the America First Political Action Committee or whatever. And he's had this AFPAC thing, America First. And he talked about, as I recall, the liberals say diversity is our strength. And he contrasts American so-called diversity with that of China and Russia. And he said, by the way, can we get a hand for Russia? And he's gives a gesture of, like, strength and resolve for Russia, because Russia is doing what they have been saying, according to this Colonel Doug MacGregor, doing what they said that they were going to do to protect their country for the last 15 years. And so they went in, finally, and they're going against what the globo-homo establishment. And Russia is basically being nationalist in this way. Putin is being a nationalist, and that's something that a lot of the people applaud. And as I mentioned before, Putin has been somebody who's at least kiddingly, because I don't know a lot about him, but at least kiddingly promoted by right-wingers, Christians and whites and patriots of America for a long time, because he seems to attempt in some things to do things that are pro his country, which is something that we wish that our so-called leaders would do. So I think that that's what it is. It's a resentment against the American globalist establishment, UN, EU, NATO, and the neocons who are enemies of America, but they've been running America. And it's also a praise of Putin for where he may have a right to do.
Like, I was watching some of the coverage last night, and I noticed the Russians were looked like they'd fully taken the second largest city in Ukraine, Kharkiv or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Like, they were moving troops all through the city. Like, they looked like they had it basically taken over. So what that general said sounded very true. Like, the game's over. Like, you better get to the table and take whatever deal you can get before it's too late.
Yeah, I was shocked by what I heard from Asmodor yesterday, that they're encouraging the arming of civilians to fight against these the Russian soldiers as though they're like guerrilla warfare stuff, which according to what he said was against the Geneva Convention. You have to be uniformed fighters. It's not.
Do you have to be if you're fighting an invading force? Do you have to be?
I don't know.
I would think if you're being invaded by somebody, it's like the gloves are off. I think the Russians might have to adhere to those kind of standards, but I don't know that if you're being invaded that's really the case.
I mean, if you're defending, it's one thing, self-defense and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're kind of making stuff up there. I don't know if it's true or not. It's an interesting question, though, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. It's purely speculative. I would assume, though, and like we say about.
But again, he should have been building up his military. They've been warning for 15 years about this, and he's begging the world for help, and the world is full of evil actors. So he's not
Trump
asking.
Gave them.
What's that?
Trump gave them tons of ammunition, javelin missiles, all kinds of $600 and something million worth of equipment and guns and ammo and
interesting
everything they could would need. But I don't know. Seems like they are at the point, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not there, and you can only take what they say, for what it is. So. It looked bad. It looked like they were in a bad position. Like, they might as well take whatever deal. I believe it was Finland back in I think it was 1920s. They had been attacked by Russia, and the war lasted 4 months.
Uh-huh.
And Finland talks a 10% size army. We were a tenth of their size, and we fought them off. But they didn't, they lost. Russia got what they wanted out of the deal. They signed a treaty with Russia that was on Russia's terms. So it's not like you beat Russia off. It's like they got what they wanted out of the deal. Same thing will probably happen here with those eastern Ukraine states or provinces, whatever they call them.
Yeah. Quick super chat as a side note to that question you brought up about the civilians being armed by the government. He said, Bobby says he would think, but the Geneva Conventions are clear. Partisans in World War II were summarily executed under the Geneva Conventions all over the place. So anyway.
So if you were being invaded by Germany in World War II, and you weren't a member of the military and you fought back, you would be executed?
Well, that would make sense, honestly.
I mean, you'd be executed probably by Germany, but I just don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. It seems like if you're being invaded,
it's not just you're armed with your own guns in your own home. You're being armed officially by the government.
Being armed by
I didn't ask his thought processes, Asmodor. I said it was dumb, like most everything else Bobby says. He says that about the. That was another super chat from him about the.
I guess he should listen back and he can hear exactly what he said. I question his thought process, but
okay.
Whatever. He thinks he knows everything. He thinks he's some kind of smart guy. That's cool.
All right.
But
I don't want to start a war between the chatters and the callers and stuff. I'm just It's just a back and forth.
But if that's the case, yeah, you aren't allowed to be armed by a government.
It makes sense. Think about it.
Sense.
We are civilized men, or we're supposed to be, and civilized men fight with civilized rules where it's orderly. You know who the enemy is. They're not trying to pretend not to be the enemy, and then they shoot you in the back or whatever. This is the way we agreed to. That's called the Geneva Convention. And just because he's invading doesn't mean the gloves are off. You don't have to follow the rules, because they've been warning, according to that Doug MacArthur, they've been warning about it. So anyway, war isn't.
I'm going to definitely look into that, because I'm very curious now that you mention it.
War isn't fair. It's ugly. There's always a loser. There's not always a winner. And you can't just assume that the person who looks like the aggressor is in the wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's so much just. I did like what that guy said, the general. Like, it didn't make a lot of sense to me that you shouldn't be, funding them and giving them ammunition and encouraging them to do, throw their lives away either.
Yep.
Like,
making it worse.
I don't know. I think that's something the president of their country should probably, deal with.
Right.
But I really appreciate your clearing that up for me on the Putin chant at AFPAC. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Did you speak at AFPAC, or did you just go as a guest?
I went as a guest, and I helped out a little bit. JLP spoke, and a few of us, basically all the experts joined. Chris, Kickflip Chris, Nick, the anchor baby, and I.
I'm excited for Chris's show too. That's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Also, real quick, just are you looking for, if you did move to Texas? I was looking at some things yesterday. If you were moving to Texas, would you want a place where you could own land, or would you want to be like in a metropolitan area?
Oh, I don't know. Did you hear Jesse say that he didn't like Texas?
Yeah, but he probably lived in like somewhere else, somewhere that's not cool. Like, there's some good spots in Texas. Like,
all right. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know where he didn't mention where he lived at, so I don't know. But I was going to ask just to see while I was sending you stuff, like what kind of venue you'd be wanting, if you'd want to be in like a large, like Houston type, Austin type area, close to the ocean, Galveston, or if you'd want to be somewhere where there's more land available. And
yeah, I don't know.
All right, well, I'll just send a couple of different stuff to you.
Okay. I appreciate it, Bobby. It's great to hear from you.
Yeah, man, thanks. Appreciate you.
Yeah, take care.
Bye.
Bye. Let me quickly get to Joe in Phoenix, Arizona. How you doing, Joe?
Good morning, James.
Hey.
All right. Putin, it's nothing to do with NATO or being worried about missiles or anything else. Putin is still very angry that the Soviet Union collapsed 30 years ago, and they lost Ukraine and Georgia and Moldova and a bunch of other satellite states. But he's simply trying to put that back together, put the USSR back together again.
How do you know this is his motivation? Did he say it?
He has said it, actually. Absolutely. He said it many times that the fall of the USSR was terrible, and that he said that Ukraine and Russia were one nation still. So he's simply acting on that. He has said that many times, yeah.
And he said that this time too?
He has said it for 30 years that the Ukraine and Russia should be one country, yeah.
Okay. Did he say it this time when he made his move, he sent his peacekeeping forces in there?
Peacekeeping forces. Good one, James. Good one.
That's what he called them. Peacekeeping forces. Did he say it this time, though?
I'm not sure if he said it this time or not, but he's been saying it for 30 years.
Okay. Yeah, I accept that. I don't know. Oftentimes you bring me information that's specious, that's suspect, but
I make you say that because you have to, because I'm right about most of these things I say.
You're actually not.
Okay.
You say stuff, you
actually
cherry pick
am.
facts that distract from the truth, the big picture truth.
No, I actually am. I bring you truth and facts that totally dismantle your nonsense and BS.
Not true.
And
No, for example, you say that
100% true.
No, you've said that Obama was great on the. Well, you didn't say he was great, but you said, you highlight the fact that Obama
You're
deported.
lying already.
Hold on, man. You highlight the fact that Obama deported more than anybody, and you don't acknowledge that he was letting in the UACs, unaccompanied alien children. He was very soft on the border. But you say, he deported people. You only focus on one side note fact rather than the bigger picture of DACA. He tried to do DAPA. DACA was allowing the illegal aliens who were supposedly came here as children, letting them stay. DAPA was the parents of anchor babies. He wanted to let them stay, but that was struck down. He was very bad on immigration, but you want to pretend that he was good on it. You say all kinds of things that are misleading.
All your interpretation.
You use
all I said is
cherry-picked facts in order to be misleading.
And that is simply a fact, James.
Nuh-uh.
That's all I said.
Nuh-uh. You try to use that fact.
Was your interpretation. Nope. You're lying again, and you're trying to distract, and that's what you do. I understand, because you want to get those hate dollars in. I understand that too.
You try to use that fact, that quote-unquote fact about the deportations.
That's all I said.
Hold on.
It is a fact.
Hold on.
No, you've been droning on, and now
You're the one who was droning on. I stopped for you. I'm going to put you on hold if you don't behave.
Yeah, we're so tough.
Yeah. So you use that fact to distract from the fact that he was not good in terms of the immigration situation and illegal aliens. He was not good for it.
So deporting him more than any other president is not good.
Yeah, you can cherry pick that fact to distract from the fact that he did DACA. He tried to do DAPA. He let the UACs, unaccompanied alien children, in. He was against the Arizona trying to protect their state with SB 1070 or whatever it was. Hold on, man. I'm not done. He tried to go. I'm ridiculous. Behave, young man. Male. He tried to go after Arizona. The state of Arizona passed this bill called SB maybe 1070 or something like that. I don't know. SB something back in 2010, 2011. He's saying I'm droning on. And it was the Show Us Your Papers Act in the state of Arizona. The Obama administration said, you can't do that. The border enforcement is the federal government's purview. So you can't, and by the way, you're doing, what do they call it? Racial profiling of Mexicans. If they look Mexican, they're going to say, show us your papers. And that's racial profiling. That's wrong. That was all Obama. The state of Arizona had major problems, and to this day, major problems with illegal aliens, criminals. And the great Sheriff Joe Arpaio was good on the illegal alien problem. Obama was not. And so Joe is a deceiver. A deceiver.
More than any other president, period.
See? You can only focus on one fact, and then you call those are the facts. But no, you don't cite all the facts. You only cherry pick one fact to deceive people, which nobody's really deceived by you except people who are already prone to be deceived.
James, that's all you and Jesse do. You cherry pick not even facts, just unfounded statements to try to denigrate, stereotype, and lie about black folks. That's all you do.
Not true. Okay, so
100% true.
No.
As far as AFPAC goes.
No. Hold on for AFPAC.
No.
I will let you talk about AFPAC, but you made a point about Putin, and I have a couple of super chats that are addressing that statement. I will let you talk about AFPAC.
An idiot and a liar.
I'm going to hang up on you if you keep on interrupting me. Okay, and you won't get to talk about AFPAC. So behave, and I'll let you talk about AFPAC. Okay.
All right.
Asador states, this is ridiculous. Putin has never said he's trying to reestablish the USSR, the Soviet Union. Joe is lying. He has been explicit in both negotiations and publicly that he will not tolerate NATO going back on the agreement made with the U.S. Secretary of State Baker that NATO would not advance toward Russia. Lieutenant Colonel Douglas MacGregor, who I just played on Fox News versus Trey Gowdy, has stated that Putin has warned for over a decade, 15 years, I think, that Russia would never allow a NATO country to abut its western border, which would bring troops and, yes, nuclear weapons to his doorstep. Actual experts, says Brandon M., not Joe Cringian. That's a pun on Joe Kenyon. Joe Cringian cite NATO moving.
Get them all in, James.
Right.
Get them all in.
Well, I mean, that's a super chat. We're addressing you, so I'm saying it with you on air, so you should appreciate this so that you have time to respond.
Oh yeah. Sure.
Actual experts, not Joe Cringian, cite NATO moving into old Soviet bloc countries and the U.S. overthrown attempts in Ukraine and Belarus over the past 20 years. He wants a NATO buffer, is what Putin wants, according to Brandon M. and Asmodor. So now, shut you up. Putin, speechless.
No, did not. Putin is a murderer and has fleeced his country for billions of dollars.
You're changing the subject.
Think he's great.
You're changing the subject.
He's
Obama's a murderer, too.
Constantly. He's on record constantly saying he wants the Ukraine back. So, Asmodor, you're an idiot and wrong as usual, and all you other idiots are even stupider than, or even more stupid than Asmodor, which is hard to do.
Did you know that Ukraine, there are parts of Ukraine that want to be part of Russia? They've had major wars.
Sure. They're Russian.
So if they want to be part of Russia, and Russia wants them to be part of Russia, which I don't know if you're even right, because MacGregor said that they may become independent states, independent countries. So
has Russian-speaking population, and they are an independent democracy. If they voted to get the go back, so be it. But Russia's invading and killing people to try to force them back, and that is wrong. Some person would know that.
According to Colonel MacGregor, Doug MacGregor, he said that I think it was him who said that they're not this democracy that you claim that they are. They are worse in terms of corruption than even Russia, according to the corruption metrics that, so they're not this democracy. And by the way, did you hear that did you hear that guy say that Zelensky has jailed dissidents and journalists and stuff, just like what you claim that Putin has done?
Putin has killed journalists.
No. I asked you about Zelensky.
Media people, absolutely.
I asked you about Zelensky. Did you know that Zelensky had jailed journalists?
It wouldn't surprise me either.
Yeah. So they're not this democracy. Give me a break.
Well, James.
Okay.
You can worship Putin all you want to.
You can claim that I'm worshiping Putin. I'm just defending the truth. I'm bringing balance to it. To the situation.
You're cherry-picking facts. You're cherry-picking facts in your line.
I'm cherry-picking facts that you're not cherry-picking, so we have more facts to give the better picture. These are alternative facts. You have your alternative facts. I have mine, and with it, we have a bigger picture.
You're just hysterical.
Okay. AFPAC, go.
All right. AFPAC. Both Mitch McConnell and Liz Cheney called it for what it was.
Rhinos. They're liars and rhinos. But go ahead. What did they say?
Mitch McConnell's a rhino?
Total rhino. Mitch McConnell, we've known he's been a rhino. That turtle-headed guy, he's been a rhino since long before Trump, and we've known this, since long before Trump came in. And he worked with Trump because he had to.
Quite the indictment of a Trump lackey. I mean,
no, he's not a Trump lackey. Give me a break.
Oh, he did with Trump.
So what did Rhino Mitch McConnell and anti-Trump Rhino Liz Cheney say about AFPAC?
That there's no place in the Republican Party for any kind of white nationalism or white supremacy. And that's exactly what AFPAC was.
No, that's dumb.
Yeah.
No, that's a lie.
They know Jesse.
Those guys
the only reason they praise Jesse. See, you're talking over me.
I'm responding to what they said. So those guys are rhinos. They're enemies of the Republican Party and enemies of America. Liz Cheney? Pfft, give me a break. And what's wrong with being white and a nationalist?
Nothing wrong with being white.
And what's wrong with being a nationalist while white?
Nationalism has never worked, James. It's a stupid ideology that doesn't work.
That's dumb. And then what's wrong with being a so-called white supremacist, according to you? You smear somebody as a white supremacist. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with being that? I thought this was America.
Because it's all about hatred, and hatred leads to suffering and murder and death.
But that's what all Liz Cheney and Mitch McConnell are about, and you're all about hatred. And it leads to suffering and death.
James, you love flipping things around, I'll tell you.
Because it's true.
All you definitely do is lie about, denigrate, and stereotype black people. That's all you do.
No, he loves black people. Rich. Unlike you.
He hates black people.
No, he loves black people.
And stereotypes. That's all he does.
You don't know his heart. You don't know Jesse's heart. You don't even know your own.
I know what kind of car he drives, I'll tell you that.
I got to go, Joe. Nice talking with you.
That shuts you up real quick, didn't it, James?
No, because that's an evil point to bring up. It's an irrelevant point to bring up. You don't know the circumstances or anything what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
And you're going to get yourself 100%. Banned if you start talking about personal gossip like that.
It's not gossip, it's on video.
Yes, it is. It's gossip.
It's on video.
I don't care if it's on video. It's stupid gossip, and you're evil for bringing it up.
Oh, calm down.
All right, goodbye. Anyway, let me get to I have calls to get to. I have super chats to get to. I have some ridiculous evil footage of the transgender agenda, which is supported by rhinos. But first, we are at the top of the hour, guys. I gotta get to the terrible music to torture you with. What's a bedtime clown? So this is Anaphylaxis. Anaphylaxis? I don't know how to pronounce that word. Llorando is the name of this song. It's from Describing Paranoia. I think it's a compilation from 2003 on Parasomnic Records. Llorando. I think that means crying in Spanish. Enjoy. It's about 4 minutes long. I'll come back in and talk you through it. Grin and bear it, you musical Philistines. Press mute if you're weak. Go shovel the snow or rake the leaves. It's spring now, almost. Here's Anaphylaxis, Llorando. Enjoy, and I'll be back for hour 2. Isn't this nice, guys? Isn't this nice? Purgatory greatest hits, says Uriel Giovanni. Uriel. I don't know how to pronounce your name, man. Uriel. Time to take my earbuds out, says Catherine Payne. Thumbs down. Llorando. La Llorona. Isn't that like a banshee? From like Colombia or something? Crying woman. Llorando, llorando, like Joe the Snake Kenyon, says Willie Powell. Total woman, huh? Satan tries to control. This stuff is too dancey, says Doom Jesus. Is that the end of the song already? Very nice. Oh, well, it's not a song. It's a noise piece. Well, thank you guys for bearing with me. Haunting but cool, says Lisa. Well, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. And happy Women's History Month to you ladies, I guess. What'd you guys ever do? Indeed. Well, thank you guys. Sounds like my car with a bad bearing. There was something else. Hake knows Espanol. Yeah, because I grew up amongst I worked amongst the Hispanics. Title sounds pleasant. Yeah. Guys, let me read a few super chats before I get to Mike in Las Vegas, Nevada, coming right up. You can call in 888-775-3773. But first, some super chats, guys. There was one other one in the Odyssey that... Okay. All right. Asmodor states, in Odyssey, referring back to the first call with Bobby and his prior call yesterday, those calls from those two guys yesterday, Asmodor and Bobby. I question his thought process, is what Asmodor states that he said in that call yesterday, which I do remember him saying. He says it's a polite way to say he's dumb, not a question to Bobby. That's quite clear to anyone with a healthy thought process. All right, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it. And, man, there was other super chats I wanted to read from, John WX25 with a super chat on streamlabs.com/the Hake Report. Watch a listen for the lib trash to race reassign Ukrainian. I have no idea what that phrase says. Watch a listen for the lib. Watch, maybe it's watch and listen for the lib trash, the lib tards, right? Lib trash to race, to reassign, I think, Ukrainian people as POCs, so-called people of color, so they can call Putin a white supremacist. Yeah, I know, watch that. They're going to try to call him that. And Putin wants to denazify, I heard, the Azov regiment of Ukraine, which, according to my caller, Asmodor, yesterday, he called in and said, and other people, if you guys saw this, said that this Azov battalion, who are like supposedly like very sympathetic to the Nazis, are doing stuff that, in my opinion, might be too manly. Meaning like too like brutal and warlike. Meaning pulling people out of their vehicles when they're fleeing Ukraine. If there is a fighting age man in the car, pulling a couple and shooting them in the head, killing them for deserting. Deserters shot, basically, is what the thing is. That's too manly for me. Maybe. I don't know if that's too manly for you. And I use the term manly perhaps loosely, but it might be. Crazy, huh? Guess it depends on your point of view, what's right and what's wrong in that situation. Beta J says, Hake, What's it going to take for you to run with Trump as his VP in 2024? It's going to take a miracle. And it's not a miracle that I'm praying for necessarily, Beta J. Not on my mind, but thank you. I appreciate that, Beta J. More super chats. Let's see. Jared has a few super chats here. I disagree with you, James, just a bit. The Geneva Convention is a means for globalists to use front armies to fight their wars, breaking Geneva Convention, Gen Con, while the main forces are used as liberating force. It's a pretense. There are no rules in war. My thoughts, says Jared. James, I commend you for handling Joe like a boss. This scripture describes him. Proverbs 4, verse 16, KJV, King James Version. For they sleep not, except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away unless they cause some to fall. John WX15 states, LA Times had an article stating Obama's deportation numbers were misleading since procedures done by Obama differed from previous presidents. Joe is a snake. Yeah, I remember they changed the definition of deportation, among other things. And I remember hearing from my boss at the time at my prior job that he wasn't going after criminals. He was going after people working at, working jobs, which is fine. I don't want illegals working jobs taking our jobs either. But he was doing all kinds of different amnesty measures, de facto and de jure, or the executive order. Lorena H. states, Hi, Hake. What do you think about the issue going on with the ex-MMA fighter, Cain Velasquez? He shot an allegedly innocent person while trying to shoot an alleged molester who apparently abused one of his relatives. And people calling to free Cain? What a mess. Yeah, I'd only heard basically the headline, some tweets, couple of tweets about this situation. A former mixed martial arts fighter, Cain Velasquez, apparently is his name. And some guy allegedly molested a relative of Cain's. A child, I think. A child. Molested as in bothered in a probably evil way, right? And accidentally shot, I think, the uncle of the alleged perpetrator. And so he's gone to jail, I think. People are calling to free him. I don't know about freeing him. I don't know the situation. I don't know the story. Don't know what the circumstances were. But doing that kind of evil that the accused may have done can cause, retaliation. I think even in the biblical sense, they say that such people who do such evil are really putting their own lives on the line, spiritually. Like if a husband catches a wife cheating or whatever, there were some pretty tough penalties that I might feel are too manly, meaning harsh, just no mercy, no hesitation. Putting them to death is an old school, but if you think about it, you got to deal with evil and deal with it. So I don't know. I don't think that he was justified. I don't think he was unjustified. I don't know. But thank you, Lorena H. It does sound like a mess. People do get emotional about crimes against children, sex crimes against children. They get emotional about it, and they get all high and mighty. And it's to me, it's a signal of how morally low society has gotten. Because if you think about it, they're like, oh, yeah, the prisoners are going to rape or kill him, this child molester, the fellow prisoners who are fellow criminals who've done evil things themselves, but they're not so evil as a child molester. So there's this false self-righteousness And Jesse Lee Peterson had a great biblical question. Are you better than a child molester? It's a great biblical question because people accept their own evil and turn around and judge others. And that's not good. Everybody's going to hell that way. You know? We can't be lowering our moral standard where, we let the LGBT, we let the sex out of wedlock, but we draw the line at the pedos. No, we draw the line at what's right. And everything else is wrong. We don't smile upon it. We don't pretend that it's fine because it's not fine. You know? It's not right. But I appreciate that question. Perhaps I'll look into it more and let you know what I think. Thank you for the super chats, guys. Let me quickly get to Mike in Las Vegas, Nevada. Mike, thank you for holding, man. How are you doing?
How's it going, Hank?
Going well.
Hey, man, how come you're such a racist Putin sympathizer?
I can't help it. I'm white.
I'm just playing. I wanted to see what it sounded like to call into a radio show and sound retarded for a minute.
Nice.
I always wondered about that. No, hey, man, those calls yesterday were fire, man. I don't get to listen as often as I'd like, but it was nice hearing Asmodor's take on stuff, and also who was it? I thought Bobby took the criticism well.
Yeah.
But the guy that called in about Catholicism, that was actually that was very interesting.
What was that called? Catholicism.
He was calling about Ash Wednesday and explaining how the Catholic Church actually works.
Was that on my show or was that
Damn, I can't.
It might have been the Jesse Lee Peterson show.
It might have been,
because I had
right after one after the other.
I had Bobby from Texas, which was interesting. Asmodor from Texas, very interesting. Denny from Bulgaria talked about the colleges worldwide. Merle talked about America First, and Dan talked about the corporate-supported vaccine credential initiative. So I didn't get any Catholic calls.
You might be right. I think you're right. I think it was on Jesse's show.
Okay.
But I really enjoyed the calls yesterday, man.
Nice.
It was a great show.
Right on. Thank you.
But other than that, man, I'm kind of on a job right now, but
okay.
I just wanted to call in, say hi, and I'll call you again next time when I got a little more time.
That sounds good, man. Appreciate you, Mike. Good to hear from you.
Hey, keep up the good work, man. We love your show, dude.
Nice. All right. Take care.
Later.
Bye. That's Mike from Las Vegas. Joel never did that. I met Mike at the men's conference, and he's the one who said, hey, truckers, freedom truckers, hit me up. I'm a trucker mechanic. Cool. Okay, so, by the way, I heard that the truckers, as of yesterday, according to Big Bump, a reliable source, he stated that they were in Missouri yesterday, apparently. So they're keep on trucking. Keep on trucking. Like the great, back when it was great, was it ever great? Sesame Street song? Keep on trucking. Ooh, the Garbage Man's Blues. But not just Garbage Men. I wish that they would take out the garbage from D.C., but that's, I guess, a pipe dream. You guys can call in 888-775-3773. Let me get to this interesting story about the China virus. By the way, Commie Nonsense Network, CNN, says that Australia, Western Australia, opens its borders after 697 days. 697 by 365 and a quarter is almost 2 years. Wow. Longest border closures, one of the world's longest border closures, ends today. And so, it has a picture of a couple of, Chinese people. In Australia, yeah, I've heard Chinese people talk with an Australian accent. Whoa, what a mess. What is with all these white countries bringing in all these other people? According to reporting from CNN affiliate Sky News, The first 2 flights to arrive in the state capital, Perth, once the border restrictions were officially lifted March 3rd, were from Sydney and Singapore. So I think people had to wait for like years, a couple of years. And so they arrived for the first time in like 2 years. Crazy, huh? Western Australians lived lives that would have been unimaginable anywhere else in the world, free from fear of the China virus, especially the elderly and the immunocompromised, so claimed this dumb state's premier, Mark McGowan. He wrote that in a Facebook post ahead of the reopening. He referred to Western Australia as an island within an island due to its strict measures and relative isolation. He acknowledged that the cost of remaining closed has been high. His parents lived in New South Wales. I understand what it means to be disconnected from family, how hard it can be. For that, I'm so thankful to those Western Australians for their sacrifice to help keep our whole state safe, because they're apparently an island. Crazy. According to him, I don't know. Maybe he means that metaphorically. Do you think that Australia did it right? I can't imagine that they did. I don't know. Arco Iris says, Hake, fake news! Only vaccinated people can enter the state and country. Oh. Thank you for clearing that up. I think you may be right. I would not be surprised if you are right. I did not know that Sky News was CNN connected. I did not know that. Sky News gets smeared as being like the other Fox News. I guess because the guy who owns Fox News also owns Sky News or something like that. Ooh, wow. What a mess. But, you know, speaking of opening up again, so Australia's, I thought they were a free country. No. But listen to this funny clip. Hopefully you can hear it and understand it. This is from ABC, so-called news, far-left enemies of America, that phony news outlet ABC. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis looks visibly annoyed, and he admonished a group of students who wore face masks at one of his appearances. And so you're going to hear, so when I play this clip 14, I believe, his back is to the mic, and so you can barely kind of hear it with a lot of background noise. Hopefully you can hear it. Listen closely, guys. And he's admonishing a couple of students behind him. One of them is a black dude. I think he's black. Maybe he's Cuban. Some Cubans are part black, are they? Dominicans? Whatever. And you can see the black guy, he takes off his mask and he's smiling at the end. Because Ron DeSantis, who's the governor of Florida, Republican, second favorite to Trump for many. Some prefer him to Trump, whatever. Says it's ridiculous in my opinion. You guys can keep it on if you want, but we need to open up and not do this COVID theater is what he says. So listen closely and you'll see it. Watch. And this is from ABC News. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis berates kids for wearing masks is the ABC far-left anti-American AP headline. Watch and listen.
Doing anything, we got to stop with this COVID theater. So if you want to wear it, fine, but this is ridiculous.
All right, well, it's good to be at USF.
Wasn't that kind of nice? Let's not monkey this up, said Ron DeSantis before he was elected governor, when he was a former congressman. He could have been a tad more polite and just asked the kids, but I see his point, says Lisa, over there on Facebook. He's all exacerbated. Exasperated, yeah. Severio says they must be paid. I don't know. A visibly annoyed Florida Governor Ron DeSantis admonished a group of high school students for wearing face masks at an appearance, saying it was time to stop what he called this COVID theater. And it's what it is. We all know this. We've known it for like years, since the beginning. They're like, oh, let's put on this show. We're about to go in front of the cameras. These phony politicians, local politicians, who like put a mask on to just be in front of the cameras. I saw a picture, tweeted out a couple of pictures of sleazy Joe Biden. He's like walking the lawn. You know, he has not Air Force One, but the helicopter one that flies him around. He's walking back and he's wearing a mask. He's wearing a mask all by himself, looks like. A black, face mask supposedly protecting the world from the China virus. Washington, D.C., dirty D.C. from the China virus. And then the next day, Tuesday, he's at the State of the Union address. We're not a union. We're a State of the Destruction of America address. And so Monday, he has to wear the mask all by himself, outdoors, in fresh air. Tuesday, he gets to mingle and rub elbows with those girly senior citizens over inside the Capitol building, or whatever that thing was, giving his dumb, self-important, lame speech. That's called China virus theater. He called it COVID theater. I call it the China virus. COVID is a globalist word for what the China virus is. COVID-19. Give me a break. I don't listen to the UN. Case after case. And I played for you at the Super Bowl, the health director or whatever in LA County, that Barbara Ferrer, skeleton-looking woman. I wanted to say Skeletor, but she's not buff. Who's looks like a skeleton, and she's wearing a mask and all fiddling with it, talking. You're not even supposed to touch the mask. You're not supposed to touch your face. So phony. It's theater. And I showed you that headline a week or 2 or 3 or 4 ago from that Atlantic or some dumb mainstream media, liberal media outlet, far left enemies of America. Mask policies don't have to make sense. It's to signal to the people that we are still in a pandemic. What a mess. So wrong. Speaking of wrong, I got to show you this footage. Speaking of child abuse, Lisa over there at Facebook, it might have been Lisa, said, but some crimes are way worse than others. And that's true. That is true. But are you better than a child molester? That's an important question. I think Lisa may be an atheist. Anyway, this is an attack on the kids, and they pretend that they're protecting the kids. It's so evil. Play clip 11 for me. This is from Mr. Andy No. He is an independent journalist, a liberal guy, but tries to put out the truth. He's exposed Antifa, and he says, at the University of North Texas in Denton, Texas, far-left activists shut down the Young Conservatives of Texas. Young Conservatives of Texas. It's a club event featuring a father who lost custody of his so-called transgender child. This is that Jeffrey Younger guy, father of James Younger, and I think the so-called mother is trying to call him Luna or something like that. The radicals pounded on the table and shouted, F you fascist, over and over and over again. And here's the proof. Enjoy this clip or grin and bear it. It's terrible. Clip 11A. These evil people. Whoa, evil. I think that's Jeffrey Younger saying, louder! He's clapping along. Crazy, huh? Being evil and disruptive. Typical communists. Dumb, evil army of Satan's children is what these kids, I call them kids, but they're college purported adults acting like this at University of North Texas. And Bobby wants me to move to Texas? I mean, it's like this everywhere. It's there, and it's like that in Florida too, I'm sure. Oh, goodness. Ugh, brainwashed. Yeah, exactly, Lisa. They're brainwashed minions attacking the decent people shouting them down, right? The thread continues from Mr. Andy No on Twitter. The speaker who was disrupted is Jeffrey Younger, who spoke at the Bond Men's Conference just this past year in August in Orlando, Florida. Shout out. He had a great speech at the Bond Men's Conference, talking about just the shenanigans, the evil things that the phony politicians, including, I think, Republicans, so-called Republicans. Is there any place in the Republican Party for supporting the transgender delusion against kids, against fathers, against boys? The kids so brainwashed, says Severio. They act like they are programmed. Indeed, they are. So this event over here that you just witnessed you heard being disrupted was entitled Criminalize Child Transitions. It's a call by Jeffrey Younger, I think, to criminalize child transitions, meaning transition into being a so-called transgender, which is to validate the delusion of a child and the delusion of usually the mother or even the non-mother who pretends to be the mother. Jeffrey Younger, gained media attention over opposing the gender transitioning of his child, which was being pushed by his ex-wife, who I don't even think was the actual mother of the little boy, James Younger. And the article from Courthouse News Service says, father who lost custody of transgender child runs for the Texas House. Oh, he was running for office. Texas State House, I guess, to outlaw child gender reassignments. Crazy, huh? So sick. And that was like a big classroom. Looked like a big classroom. They're pounding on their tables and desks. So wrong. And here's what it was like outside. There was an even larger crowd of far-left activists outside the campus event in Denton, Texas, University of North Texas, advocating for the quote-unquote right of the children to be transitioned. He says, Andy No says, YouTuber Alex Stein 99, Stein, of Conspiracy Castle YouTube channel. He's a funny guy. He recorded video of the angry crowd and shouted at them that they're idiots. Kids, be warned, he's talking rough, but here it is, clip 11B of the mob holding up signs that say stuff like, protect trans children, by pushing that madness on them. That's not protecting them, you evil females or female-minded liberal Satan's children. Listen to this. It's a bunch of cussing and shouting, and it's outside at a college where they're supposed to be open-minded. So open-minded, their brain leaked out. Ridiculous. Listen to this.
Pathetic loser. Every single person here is a pathetic loser that wants children to cut their penis off. Why do you think that you have the right to tell children?
Females. Trans rights are human rights.
Are you reading a script? Are you reading a script? You're reading a script. You can't even. Oh my God! Look at, changing the profile.
It's Instagram, you idiot.
You guys want children to cut off their penis? Y'all are all idiots. Everybody here is an idiot.
With their rainbow flag.
Is an idiot.
It's kicking their signs.
You can't damage their signs. That's the free speech.
That's the cop. The cop says you can't damage their signs. Go home, deadbeats.
There's a paper on the ground, officer. I understand, but there is the free speech portion of it. So,
Polite white cop. Yeah, there's free speech.
Everybody here is a loser! And an abuser! Loser! You guys want to cut children's penises off!
Pro-transgender signs. Misguided. Child abuse. That's the mob. Protect trans kids. Shut up. So wrong. Protect trans kids. Brandon M. over there in Odyssey. I'm chuckling because I'm just seeing notes from Nick. Nicolas, the Anchor Baby. Anchor Baby's new show. Catch it tomorrow. It's always fun, guys. We missed it last week and the week before. His computer broke the week before, and last week we went on our trip to AFPAC 3. Brandon M. states on Odyssey, University of North Texas is probably the most liberal university in Texas. By liberal, he means just outright evil, pure evil, disgusting. It's the art college, says Asmodor. Always been a hive of Jewish professors, meaning not Christians, anti-Christians. Traditionally, like the professorship, and many of the Jewish people, they vote like Democrat like crazy. They smear whites as racist. They hate Christians. And communist F-words, says Asmodor. But I repeat myself. F-words meaning immoral, not morally straight people. That's what he means. Yeah. University of North Texas. And that was from Brandon M. Says probably half those people will be arrested for child porn or pedophilia within 10 years. That's quite common amongst, you encourage this moral degeneracy, there's no bottom. They keep on sliding. And that's why they get mad about it, because some of them are not for that, but many of them are sliding towards that. There are no trans kids, quote unquote, says John Rios. There are only kids. Exactly, John Rios. What they're protecting is the evil spirit that has possessed the children, and not the children. They're not protecting the children. Very true. I didn't see one black person, says Blark Blark. Wow, good point, man. So good point. Such a good point. Interesting. Side note, I mentioned that black kid who took off his mask after DeSantis yelled at him, good-naturedly yelling at him, and Big Bump sent me a tip of a breaking 911 clip where the maskless Florida mother says, it's just shocking that Governor DeSantis told college students they could remove their masks. And she's not wearing a mask. And she's standing next to her son who's taller than her, who's wearing the mask, and he's talking a little bit. And Big Bum says, Mama said we should still be slaves. I'll have to pull up that clip and see if I can play it maybe tomorrow. Wow, what a mess. So terrible. Mother of the kid in the hat who got yelled at, and he took off his mask and smiled. The love of a father. That's what Ron DeSantis showed him, maybe. And this evil black female mother of this young man in high school having to do a news press conference, basically. Oh my gosh. I'll have to show it to you tomorrow. Hopefully. Oh, crazy. What a mess. Before I get to Joe in Portland, Oregon, let me just show you the last bit of this madness. Andy No went on to say the far-left crowd that you just heard advocating for transitioning children at University of North Texas became increasingly angry as the night went on in Denton, Texas. And he quote tweets, the Young Conservatives of Texas at University of North Texas, the only conservative organization at this art college full of not morally straight and non-Christian people, redundant. Kelly Neidert, footage from Kelly Neidert from their chapter of her. This is the woman who probably booked Jeffrey Younger, being evacuated from their event by the protected from the angry mob by the cops. The evacuation didn't work, and she was hidden in a janitor's closet in a nearby building until it was safe to leave. And they said more footage would be posted later. That's from YCTUNT. But look at this clip. Listen to the madness and the hype. And they're trying to escort this woman to safety, young woman to safety. Listen to this. Last bit. Psycho women and female-minded males. F you, B-word, die. Hopefully I bleeped this enough. They're saying, forget you! Crazy, huh? Deport the college students. So sick, huh? JJ Money says, Ron DeSantis tired of the fake news in theater. Floridians, I call them Floridans, but Floridians have his back. Nice. What a mess, huh? What a absolute mess. The angry, evil leftists have always been more violent and destructive than the right. It's a fact, Jack, and evil. So sick. Anyway, let me get to Joe in Portland, Oregon. He wants to talk about this Jeffrey Younger man. Joe, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Hake. How you doing?
I'm fine as well. Thank you.
Nice. So, yeah, these idiots yelling F you fascists are the true fascists because they are suppressing free speech and they don't want dialogue. They don't want anyone else's voice to be heard, only their opinions to be heard.
That's true. That part is true. I don't even know what the definition of fascist is. I know a guy who's a nice guy who calls himself a fascist. So, and he doesn't act like this. But they're evil, that's for sure.
They are evil. Antifa is evil.
Yep.
And we've got a lot of Antifa here.
Up in Portland?
They are the most, they are the most, I've been face-to-face with these people, and they are the most evil people on the planet. And
just to interrupt, I apologize. I guess I'm wrong for interrupting, but since I did, a lot of them in L.A., of the Antifa people in L.A. are transgenders. I heard from, this is hearsay, somebody in church made the claim that a lot of the most violent ones are the transgenders. And you hear about this, the domestic violence and stuff. And that guy there was a L.A. Antifa person who down here in L.A. at least, he stabbed a guy in the chest. He stabbed this Mexican guy in the chest at a protest. You know, the Mexican was getting, it was kind of like mutual combat almost, but he just stabbed him. And he got charged, but it's
I saw that video.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, they claim to care about quote unquote marginalized people, but they always attack people. They attack black people, Latino people. They attack gays, Asians. They've attacked all different kinds of people that they claim to care about. They don't care about those people. They're anarchists, and they want to see. They've fully admitted that they want the destruction of the U.S. That's what they want.
Yeah.
And
no borders, no walls, no USA at all. And you know who else is the most marginalized people whom they attack? The whites who are who are like nationalists and want their country back. Those people are the most marginalized in America. They don't stand up for them. They just stand against them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And drugs are rampant through that community and through Antifa.
Yeah.
They use a lot of meth, with heroin. They use a lot of drugs, and they have even amongst themselves, they have talked about how they have raped underage girls, drugged and raped underage girls. yeah, they're just a really horrible bunch of people. And Andy knows a hero. That guy is awesome. I've met him once. Good guy. He reports the truth.
Yeah, I respect
him. He exposes them. Yeah. And they've attacked him. They say they want to kill him. They have written that in graffiti on buildings.
Right.
They've said it on Twitter. I mean,
the mainstream media was all praising punch Nazis, the punch Nazis trend on Twitter and in the articles and stuff. Unprovoked attacks on normal, decent Americans who have, to use that Canadian guy, the male feminist, he said, unacceptable views. That's Justin Trudeau, the sleazy guy. Because it's unacceptable to be Christian or to be white and not hate whites.
Yeah. What they do is their definition of a Nazi is anyone who supports Trump or anyone who disagrees with their opinions. They just label them a Nazi, so that's how they justify it to the public.
Yeah.
Because then the public believes that they are somehow doing good.
And they just throw confusion. They're just like the mainstream media who supports them.
They do it on purpose.
Yeah.
They do it absolutely on purpose. They put disinformation out there constantly.
Yep.
Constantly lie and put out disinformation. There was a mass shooting just recently in Portland. There was Antifa involved, and they've been telling lies about that. So yeah, that's what they do it on purpose. And those are all tools of fascists.
Yeah.
Those are all fascism tools. It's like 1984. They learned all their lessons from 1984, and they're using them.
What is fascist? Do you know?
Well, I don't have the definition right here in front of me, but I know that many fascists throughout history have used these same tactics, like putting out disinformation, propaganda, not allowing your opposition to have a voice.
It seems more communist to me. Is there a difference between communist and fascist?
There is a difference.
That's why I go to just evil.
Off the top of my head without looking it up, but yeah, they're definitely evil.
Yeah.
I mean, and the Antifa people are communists and they're fascists both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think both can exist at the same time.
All right.
But yeah.
Because I thought I heard that fascist meant like extreme nationalist, which they're anti-nationalists. They're globo-homo types.
Well, everything they say they're against, they actually are.
Yeah. So. Huh. Yeah. It's so wild. It's a mess.
Yep.
Interesting, man. I appreciate it, Joe. And be careful over there in Portland, Oregon. Not to be confused with Portland, Maine. Right,
Portland, Maine is a much nicer place.
Did you mention Jeffrey Younger? You called in about Jeffrey Younger, right?
Yeah, because all those kids are basically little Antifa in training, and they're brainwashed,
right?
And they're and like I said, they were yelling at fascists when they are actually using tactics of fascists by not allowing Younger to have his opinion. They silence people instead of having an open discussion. Instead of allowing people to have free speech, they silence people.
It's so funny because it seems like in the late 80s and 90s, we had all these people promoting degeneracy, pornography, the gay agenda, and all that stuff. And they said, oh, we're for free speech and communism and all that evil mess and smearing Christians. Oh, we're for free speech. And now they're clamping down on free speech, particularly true speech they're clamping down on. I wonder if we should be clamping down on them instead. You know, like we should have the shoe on the other foot, or if we should be for freedom to be evil, like they are being. You need a certain amount of freedom to be evil, but I wonder how much we're supposed to put up with.
Well, we shouldn't be infringing upon other people's rights. We shouldn't be allowing, violence towards anyone or destruction of property. Those things should some of those things are illegal. and yet they're not enforced. Here in Portland, Antifa is allowed to do basically whatever they want because the people in charge of the city leaders, are all radical leftists who are, the DA, he's friends with Antifa.
The DA from Portland, you're saying? Portland
yeah,
area? What's his name? Do you know offhand?
Mike Schmidt.
Okay.
Mike Schmidt. He's pure evil.
Yeah.
He's friends with them. His old roommate is an Antifa person. And so Antifa, when they do get arrested by the police, the DA just lets them go. He drops all charges and lets them go. And then they go out and commit more crimes over and over and over again. Some of these people have been arrested dozens and dozens of times.
That's wild. I have a super chat from Asmodor on Odyssey. 1984, which you referenced, isn't about fascism. It's a book, right? I think I read it.
Yeah.
It's not about fascism. The party in the book is INGSOC, short for English Socialist, which is a communist party.
Yeah, but yes, and I realize that, but they are intertwined. Some of the...
When I think of fascist, I think of people claim that the Nazis were fascists, and they may have been, and people claim that Benito Mussolini, is that an Italian dictator? Was he fascist? I think he's...
Yeah, he was a fascist, made good pizza.
Oh, really? Nice.
Supposedly. I've heard that. But yeah, he was a fascist.
And you can't trust the dictionary nor Wikipedia. Bill Lockwood is a guy who, American history with Bill Lockwood. He has stated that fascism is far left and communism is even further left. So fascism is not far right. It's just a little bit to the right. That's what he's claimed.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true.
Well, I think it can go either way.
Because on Wikipedia, which is a far left outlet, they say fascism is a form of far-right authoritarian ultranationalism characterized by dictatorial power, forcible suppression of opposition. That part you are right about, forcible suppression of opposition. Strong regimentation of society and economy that rose to prominence in early 20th century Europe. Italy, World War I, and other European countries. Opposed to anarchism, democracy, liberalism, Marxism. Fascism is placed on the right wing of the traditional left-right spectrum, so claim they. I don't know.
Yeah, you can't trust Wikipedia.
Yeah, but authoritarian, far-right, what does that mean? Authoritarian ultra-nationalism, we need some more authority. We need some more nationalism. Some people say that doesn't work.
We need law and order. We need law and order.
And dictatorial power, we need to dictate what's going on with these evil people, right? We need forcible suppression of opposition of the evil. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm all about freedom.
Yeah.
And I'm all about people should be able to do whatever they want as long as it doesn't harm others or infringe upon other people's rights.
I'm not sure if I agree with that because people differ on what harms people, and you sound like a lawbertarian. And those people get pushed. You get pushed around, whether you like it or not, into by evil. Evil takes over when you act too laissez-faire, I think.
Yeah, I agree that people have different definitions of harm.
Yeah.
But,
true.
Yeah, I mean that could be debated for weeks.
Yeah, but you're not even you're not a Christian, right?
You are correct. I'm not Christian. I'm not religious.
Okay. Well, nice to hear from you, man.
But I support Christians, and
nice.
They're generally good people. Not all, of course.
Right.
But and a lot of the ideas in the Bible are good things. So, I have nothing against Christians.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. It's good to hear from you over there in Portland, Oregon. Take care.
Yeah. All right. You take care. Bye.
All right. Oh, man. Let me just see. Was there anything else? Oh, I promised I would cover this, I think. Or I wanted to cover it. Climate change anxiety in the last 3 minutes here before I get to calls. I don't know if I'll be able to get to them. This is from Pocket. I told you about Pocket earlier. and I've been telling you over and over, how climate change is reshaping the way Gen Z works. This is from that, look at this, from BBC Work Life, how climate change is reshaping the way Gen Z works. And it references, it's by Christina Rowe, out just this month. Younger workers have higher eco-anxiety than those who've come before him. That's because they're blind and brainwashed and full of fear. That's not good. They're female-minded thinkers. Women have fear, right? It's affecting where they can and will work. And so the first line of this article opens with a quote from this Chinese anchor baby, I call her. Climate change gives me an insane amount of existential anxiety, says Lillian Zhao. Z-H-O-U. Many young people can probably relate to this 26-year-old Zhao's worries. Is that a young millennial or is that a Zoomer still? Gen Z. Zhao's worries about the climate and her desire to work for a company that's doing something about it. Give me a break. She grew up in Michigan, experiencing milder winters coupled with fiercer storms, and they think that that's man-made climate change. Give me a break. These storms have led to flooding that endangers lives and destroys property, as well as causes more runoff in our state's many lakes, says Zhao. Your states. Go back to China, evil communist woman. No. She remembers floods in 2014 made tap water unsafe for several counties in Lake Erie. It's too easy to spiral into despair when you watch the news or watch Planet Earth documentaries. She's turned to work as a way to challenge her eco-anxiety in a positive direction. I combat this anxiety through my work, knowing that I am working for an environmentally and socially oriented organization. Something bigger than a paycheck. That's what brings me a sense of purpose. It's a massive concern. In 2018, a survey said 77% of Gen Z respondents said it was important to work at organizations whose values aligned with theirs. Social values matter deeply to this dumb population. Sorry, Gen Zers. I love some of the Zoomers. Groypers. Concerned about climate change than older generations. In UK, too, 64% of 18 to 22-year-olds considered it important for employers to act on environmental issues. 59% would remain longer with responsible employers. Australia suckers. They've left companies not doing enough. So dumb. Blind, brainwashed, arrogant, don't know what they're talking about, but think that they do people. That's what the brainwashing system has done to the people. John WX15 says, libs are the result of... I can't say that, man. Not morally straight, immoral behavior. Azzmador states about the fascists and communists, they are not in any way intertwined. Fascism is in the modern sense was created only as a viable opposition to the insurgent communism. Okay, guys, I appreciate it. Rick in Hampton, Virginia wanted to talk about the Biden energy crisis. I'm overtime, way overtime. This has been the Hake Report. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow, Friday, for a fun Friday show. Thanks, and take care.